Welcome to the Penguin Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Erik Tate. Joining me, as always, my good buddy and co-host, Nick.
Good.
Nick,
What's
how
going
are
on
you doing, buddy?
this morning? Anything over there?
This morning was catching up on a lot of Magic media that
There's a lot
have
of Magic
yet to
media
see.
going
So
around right now.
later on in the episode, you and I are going to
Mm.
talk about O's on Joe Rogan, but I also got to
Oh, I
watch
haven't
the
done that
Justin
yet.
Willman special. And, well, okay. It's
I gotta
so
watch that.
now you've
Let's
got
do that.
homework. You've got to go watch that
Mm-hmm.
so we can break it down. But it's
Mm.
great. It's really good. It's what I've always wanted. It's a Magic special I've always
Yeah,
wanted
no,
to see on
it's
Netflix.
every night. The past week, I'm like, should I put it on? I look at the clock. Damn it, it's too late.
Mhm.
But yes, I watched that soon. The other one, I don't know if you caught Cyril on AGT. It's kind of interesting.
So I saw the first
Oh,
one
has he
where
been
he
on
got an
twice now?
X, but I haven't seen.
Oh, I think it's only been
I
on
don't
one
know.
clip at
No,
the moment.
has been
I think.
okay. I know he's
Yeah,
through to the next
yeah.
round, but
But
yeah,
there's some interesting stuff to think through there as well. I'm not sure what I think about that yet, but yeah. So there's some magic happening
yeah.
out in the world.
It's we're in an interesting spot for Magic right now, where we got more Magic showing up in the media. So
Ton of it.
I mean, we got a lot to talk about this week. There's a new book, there's a new Danny Ortiz thing, and then you and I are going to talk about O's. But everything going all right for you in Chicago?
Yeah, we're super busy out here, but things are still moving
Mhm.
along. We want to do another talk about the old hand in the eye soon. See if we can get maybe
Mhm.
Jeff in here or something like that. Talk about what's been going on, but
Yeah.
I've been in a little holding pattern lately. I mean, a million things are going on, but we just are waiting to get our offices figured out. So, which is soon, very soon.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we look forward to more updates from the Hand of the Eye, and then and eventually, maybe we'll do a live broadcast from there one day.
Slow down.
Or well, maybe not from there, but just like three blocks away, so people know that it's near there.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely. All that stuff's happening for sure. Yeah. Long way to go.
Yeah. This week, a monster book of mentalism dropped in the spotlight by
We talked about it
Christopher
last week a
Carter
little bit, right?
dropped. We
Yeah,
teased
we
it because we didn't know when
Well,
it was going to come
you can
out.
already feel it. Like it's definitely going to be. Not that no other book could come along this year and top it, but
Mhm.
you can already feel the buzz and the amount of people that are picking this up and what people are talking about it. It's definitely going to be one of our top 2 books this year. I don't really see how it isn't. Um,
Here's how I knew it was going to be big. Not just because the last couple of conventions I've been to, people were saying, "Hey, when's the Carter book dropping? When's the Carter book dropping?" So Jar, our boss, the guy who signs our paychecks, who writes the emails, sent a little email to the social media team, and he was like, "Hey, where are people talking about this book?" Because he was working on the email to write it after it went live, and a ton of copies got sold before he ever sent the email out because people had been watching the website waiting for it to drop. Like, that's how excited the
yeah,
mentalism community is for this book.
products like that with this type of hype around it are they don't come around very often. This one also delivers because people are so excited about it because of the content of this book. It's Christopher's life's work in mentalism. You've had him on recently, right?
So I am interviewing him on Thursday afternoon, so he will be out in 2 weeks. So today on the show, we have Harrison Lampert with one of the newer theaters in Chicago, and then next week we have Jason Latimer, and then the week after that, we're going to have Christopher Carter on to talk
He's
about
been on before,
the
right?
book, and
Okay.
he's been on twice. And actually, you and I are because you hosted his first Penguin Live lecture, and I hosted his second Penguin Live lecture, and it's
Yeah,
His
it's just
stuff is
great. And it's
crazy.
just practical material from a working professional. And the book really highlights the details that you want to learn on how to bring it to the stage. So it's an incredible book. I've been
Yeah.
thumbing through it. I'm familiar with a lot of the material already, so I haven't like that's kind of stopped me from like reading it from start to finish. But it,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're interested in mentalism at all, like that's your thing. You just have to get this. And like I said last week, I mean, I am unaware how many we printed, but when the demand is usually
Yeah.
this high, it means we are gonna run out of them. It's just I don't know, just logic over here says that it will run out. It's also discounted at the moment, $20. Looks like the retail's 100, but right now you can get it for
Yeah.
80. So probably I get it.
I mean, it's a it's a big book. It's like 235 pages. And there's some really interesting stuff in the book where you can basically land, hit a Target or a Walmart, pick up everything you need to do this. Because it's like it's the the only unusual thing you would need to purchase to perform anything in this book is a
Yeah, which I
broom.
mean, you can get it like when you're at the school
Like,
auditorium or whatever, which is whatever he said. Three
mhm.
Monkeys is always my favorite thing of his. Also, that phone routine, which I'm not sure the name of it,
Yeah.
whatever it was called. Uh, what did I want to go Google or search for? Let me see.
Mhm.
Christopher Carter Live.
It's
Ringtone.
called Ringtone. Uh, the entire audience writes their cell phone numbers down on cards. A volunteer selects one card, enters the number into their phone. Preparing to dial, Chris locates the person in the audience whose phone is about to ring. It's a
Yeah, I
very
think
strong
the
effect.
Three Monkeys is the three billet
It,
routine. I think you called it Three Monkeys in the book. And
yes,
then yeah,
yes,
Ringtone is another one of my favorites. And probably the Horsefly, the Pegasus page as well. Those were all, I mean, to me, they were all
yeah,
everything's good. It's one of those you read everything's
mhm,
good. You
yeah,
just even if it's something that you wouldn't
mhm,
do, you come away going like, wow, that is good. Probably not for me, but wow, that's good, you know? So it's just it's one of the best books we've seen come out in a while. So
yeah.
good book.
It's it's all strong. It's all strong worker material that he's done. Hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of times. So it's really worked out to
Yeah.
the deepest degree, which is great. We talked about it a lot on the show before, and just now it's out. People should check it out. I'm very excited to see what the sort of magic publications review it as. I'm really interested to see those reviews as well because this book took a long time to put out. So there's beautiful illustrations. It was revised many times by Chris as he was getting to the point of publishing it. We kept having to go back and go, "Oh, wait a minute, we need to add this thing in. We need to add this thing in." I mean, it was really up until like right before printing that stuff was getting added to the book because he just has this knack of making stuff
Yeah.
better and
I'm
better
just
and better.
browsing the tricks that are in it. 28 routines. The Scrabble
Mhm,
trick's great. Pop deck
mhm,
deck is great. Free association serial number. Not sure I remember that one, but it's
mhm,
probably amazing. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff is just so good.
mhm.
And of course, the Q&A section, everybody's going to be
Yeah,
excited to read the Q&A
yeah,
um, chapter in the book with all of his subtleties and techniques. It's
mhm.
just great. How many times can I say great?
So I'd
How
say
many
the other thing to pay
ways
it
can I say it's good that you should buy it?
the other thing to pay attention to this week is there is a new Danny DeOrtiz. So Danny DeOrtiz does these sort of courses over the course of a year now. This is the fourth year, I think, that he's done them. There was the Chaos Project, the Force Project, the ACAN Project, and now this is the Borrowed Deck Project. So everything in the project, he teaches you a new trick that you can perform with a borrowed shuffled deck. And I feel like I keep saying this every month, but this
Yeah,
might
people
be
like
the best
I'm
one.
not sure if do
Uh,
people pay attention to this stuff. I hope, yeah, like I hope so, but I also hope not because these tricks are really good. Uh,
yeah. Like this trick in particular is I'd seen him do it before, and I had no idea how it worked. And to see the thought process and also understand what he's doing in front of you is really eye-opening and makes me think about, oh, maybe I want to change some of the way I do my magic. The effect is you have somebody select a card, it gets lost in the deck, they can shuffle the deck. Then the magician divides the deck sort of into 3 piles. One is a face-up pile where he knows the card is not. Then another is a face-down pile. And then he sort of randomly divides that pile into 2 piles. The audience has a free selection as to which one it is. They eliminate cards until they're down to 1 of the pile that they chose, and that is their selected card. But then the pile they didn't choose, you turn it face up, and it is the suit of the selected card in numerical order. And I have versions of effects like this where something ends up in numerical order, but I'm working
Yeah, no,
real bloody hard to do it. I'm culling and moving stuff
that's the thing.
around. I'm taking cues from
This is
from
borrowed and shuffled.
it's
This is spectator
easy.
selects a card, and then the deck is shuffled.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you could
It's
read or think about this trick, and the first thing that's going to come to your mind is like there's some sort of prearranged stack. No.
Mm. No, yeah, that's it. Because that's the thing too, is that
Yeah,
you're not doing a cull, you're not
yeah.
switching in a packet, and the and it really is the structure and construction of the routine that allows you to get away with this in truly a fascinating method. Like, I can't wait to
Same,
go out and do this
same.
trick.
This is a really
Yeah.
this is Australian chaos, right? Yeah, okay.
Australian chaos is what this is, yeah.
I couldn't remember the name of it. It's I love there's certain tricks that I do regularly, like, you can kind of relate this a little bit to like play it straight triumph, which is where
Yeah.
this is a great John Bannon trick called the Bannon Triumph, where somebody chooses a card and then they remove it from the deck, and then you shuffle the deck, you divide it into 4 piles. 2 of the piles go face up, and you shuffle all the cards together so the cards are face up and face down, and you do some magic and spread the deck, and the only cards that are now face up in the deck are of one particular suit, all in numerical order, except it's missing 1 card, and that is the spectator's selected card. It's one of my favorite tricks to do. It always gets a great reaction, but it requires a quick but simple prearranged stack on on the deck. To think that you can basically do a similar version of the trick with multiple phases from a borrowed shuffled deck,
Mhm.
yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. It the other thing that I will really give this trick is every once in a while, one of these comes out and the effect is amazing, but you sort of say, "Really, only Danny can do that." You know, because Danny, it's some of it is his personality, some of it's performance chops, some of it is a combination of those things where you're learning interesting principles and you're learning an interesting effect, but you're like, I'm not sure if I could pull that off. This is one. This is a quintessential Danny Day Ortiz routine that
Yeah.
also anyone
No,
can do.
I'm excited to I gotta I gotta put the not the work in on it. I just gotta sit down with it
Mhm.
for a couple hours and get this one into my arsenal at the moment. But I'm looking forward to doing Australian Chaos.
Yeah. I will also tell anyone listening to this, Australian cat the tutorial is 20 minutes long. So this is not a 2-hour slog fest to learn how to memorize the deck instantly. This is you learn the effect in 5 minutes and you're like, "Oh, that's ah, no wonder he won a
Mm,
Physical Award for
no,
philosophy and theory."
he's one of the best. Oh, by the
Yeah.
way, um,
Okay. Yeah.
just top 20 you're watching. I know we talked last time or maybe the time before about sponge balls
Mhm.
and red
Yep.
2-inch sponge balls being the most popular.
I was gonna say, it looks like it's
Yeah, what
been
has happened
knocked
here? What
from its
is
throne.
are the red ones out of stock or something? No way, right? Let me see.
Let me look. There's they can't be
No.
out of stock because right now in the top
Yeah,
20,
2-inch
it's
blue is like
2-inch
number
blue.
6 in the top 20, and red sponge balls are just gone. Yeah, no, they're still in stock. Huh.
No, they're still there. Well, if you go to the
Uh-huh.
bestsellers,
Well, the bestsellers
it's
the
number
bestsellers I think
2.
lags behind
It's
in updates. Like the thing on the top 20, I believe, like updates every,
Mhm.
every 6 to 12 hours or something like that. And I think if you go to
Yeah.
bestsellers, I think this page
But
lags behind a little bit. Or what were you saying?
well, it's the 2-inch blue sponge
2
balls
under top
are the
10.
number 2 in this week's top 10 under $10. And Australian Chaos only came out on Monday. So, and we're recording this on Wednesday. So it must
No, this
it must
probably, yeah, no,
update.
I'm probably wrong. It's probably the same amount. Just sorts it out. Yeah, wow. Yeah,
Still,
the red
so
one's nowhere to be found. What's up with that?
there's a run on 2-inch blue sponge balls in the 4-pack. It's not even like it's the 50-pack where you're like, "Oh, some dude bought 800 sponge balls." This is
And did we talk
everyone's
about
digging blue.
Artemis?
Oh,
Artemis is out. Yeah,
that's
it's
out?
number 2. It's right on it
Oh,
got
no,
eclipsed
we got
by in the spotlight.
okay, we gotta talk about Artemis then. So, Artemis is by Dante. This is a sandwich effect, but it's crazy because you do sort of 2 phases of, here are the jokers, the card appears between, but then you say, "Let's put this in test conditions," and you bring out, like, a couple of jokers that have holes cut in the center. I mean, like, big holes. Uh, and you literally just give them a shake, and the card appears between the cards, the holes in the center. Like, he did it on Fool Us, and I'm not convinced that Penn and Teller know how this works.
No,
How
yeah,
could
there's
you
no way they
possibly know how
do.
this
I mean,
works?
they know that it's something crazy going on in there, but yeah, no, you can't really know how this works. This is like a trick that's horrible to explain what it is on podcast, but when you see it in real life, it's like mind blowing. Yeah,
Yeah,
card literally materializes. It's as if, it's as close to
yeah,
you as you can get to like holding nothing in your hand and then having a card just
mhm,
show up in it without having to be a
yeah,
stage manipulator. Um, yeah, and it lends itself. The nice thing is about the 2 cards with holes in them, it lends itself to sandwich style presentations. So
yeah. You can sort of do it on its own, or do it with this interesting sort of multi-phase sandwich effect that
yeah,
Dante
it's
comes up with, but
it's funny that it falls in
it's
that
very
world
good.
of sure, you can absolutely use it at like the end of a sandwich routine as an impossible way
Mhm,
to demonstrate what you've been doing further. But then on the flip side, it's maybe just stronger to present, like not as a puzzle, but like it's kind of what it gets, you know, it's kind of what you analyze it as. Like when you watch it, you're like, where where the hell does that card come from? Right? It's like all you can think about. So sometimes
yeah.
just on its own alone is
'Cause
like really startling.
what's really great is that a lot of magicians are hearing us talk about this right now, and they're going, "Oh, cool, a new flap." It's not a flap. 'Cause when you see the visual, you're like, "Ah, you can't do that with a flap," because it's not like the h sort of the whole cards, like, come way apart and come back together. I mean, it just materializes between them, and suddenly that negative space in the whole cards is filled with the selected card. It's
Yeah, I know people were
it's
excited about
beautiful.
quantum aperture, Kale and Morelli trick that would just kind of hit the side. It's
Mhm,
still in the top 20. It's been in there for a few weeks. That's that one
mhm.
with the giant hole in the card that becomes like a moving black
Oh, with
hole.
whole moves? Yeah.
This is right in that world. So if those are the types of things,
Mhm,
like I saw, I think his name is. I hope I don't get it wrong, but Ed Hollingworth, just somebody that I follow on Facebook. And he posts magic videos all the time. He's like always in his kitchen just doing magic tricks from Penguin or wherever else. But like he
mhm.
he posted the other day that he circled his view count on quantum aperture and it's in the millions. So it's like all of those other videos are like 1,000 or whatever, then million quantum aperture. I'm not saying you get a million views if you
Yeah.
buy Artemis, but I don't know. I'm sure Ed's probably gonna be doing it. in a few weeks. But
All right, let's
oh,
talk
sure,
about O's. So I'm gonna start off this conversation by saying what I sent you in text message. I do not like Joe Rogan.
get it
I
out
th-
of it.
like the
You know what?
I think people have been people had been waiting for us to talk about this, and I had to. It took some gumption for me because I really don't like Joe Rogan's podcast. I don't like a lot of the people he has on there, and but I had to watch
It's
our
surprising
guy
too. You
O's,
know, a
and
fellow
I thought
comic.
O's did. Yeah, it's I no. Let me preface. I like Joe Rogan as a comic.
Got
I
it.
hate
Okay.
him as a podcaster. Yeah. I think he is very uncritical of thought and super prone to putting out conspiracy theories and like weird medical stuff that is garbage. Uh, but I think he's a great TV host. Loved him on Fear Factor. Think he's a great UFC commentator. Think he's a hilarious comedian. I'm like, you platform a bunch of weird stuff that shouldn't be out there, bro. Is just kind of where I'm at. And then to see him interact with O's was wild because the I only saw clips of the Banachek thing, but that did not go well. That was rough. And O's really got him
Yeah,
and got him
historically,
hard.
Magic's bad on the Joe Rogan. I've been listening to the Rogan podcast for a long time. Not God, I at least over 10 years at this point. Weirdly, Joe's like
Yeah.
he's a New England guy, and I've always
Mhm.
kind of like I don't know if and maybe not identified with him is the right word, but like
Mhm.
he just kind of talks like my friends back home, so it's very easy for me
Yeah.
to listen to him. Oh yeah, no,
I get
that
why
is
people
solid.
like him. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I understand the way he reacts to magic because that's like everybody I know that I used to
Yeah.
perform magic for back home,
Yeah.
and I would say he's only gotten worse at reacting to magic or like interacting with magic just because of his skills that he's gained as a curious podcast host. He Whatever he's doing, he's just thinking
Mhm.
of things like way too logically at this point. Anyway, yeah, he's one of the
Yeah.
worst magic spectators that you could ever encounter, right?
Oh,
So
ever.
to go on his
Yeah.
show and do magic or mentalism, that's probably even
Mhm.
worse for mentalism, right? Like because if you're pretending
It's gotta
if
be.
you're saying what you're doing is real, yeah, he's not going to have that, right? So yeah,
So I do think part of it is that O's is really great at pivoting in the moment. And because Oz is kind of a sports guy, right? He's runs ultra marathons. And so as you watch this podcast with the two, as it bounces between mentalism and running and sports and business stuff, Oz is so good at pivoting in the moment and then setting up the effects that he does. And we're not going to go like deep into methods or anything like that. But the one thing that I thought was brilliant that Oz did was Oz set up some trick and then decides he's not going to do it. And so Joe and Jamie put it in the safe. And it's like, well, how is Oz not coming back on the Joe Rogan experience? Like for me, that was my huge takeaway moment is if I ever get the chance, and by the way, I say I hate the Joe Rogan podcast. If I was invited on tomorrow, I'd be on in a heartbeat. Like, but if you're gonna be on a show like that where the opportunity to come back multiple times and have access to audience of millions, all O's did O's just set that
I
up
mean,
perfectly.
so first of all, Oz is one of us, right? He's not many
Yeah.
people have been on the old penguinmagic.com talking magic tricks like you, me, Oz, I don't know, Rick, Dan.
Mhm.
It's a handful of us out there, not a
Jay,
ton. So a lot of
yeah, not
all
many.
of our listeners probably are here because you do know who Oz is. What I found fascinating because I love I'm a big sports fan. I'm also a big Magic fan, and
Yeah.
Oz has been uh, wrecking is an understatement, but just absolutely dominating
Mm.
the sports media landscape for the last.
Mhm.
I don't know when he got in there at this point. If I had to think about it, I don't know if it was pre-COVID or right during that time, but the sports world has like adopted him, and he has
Yeah.
been the amount of times where I'm in like a sports bar or anywhere where there's like sports on TV, and I look up and oh, there's O's like on Get Up this morning or on First Take or whatever the sports show is. And the crazy thing is I just would not see any of it talked about in the Magic landscape. Not that he didn't come up here and there, but it was wild to me. He's on TV all the time, like probably every day. Hard
Yeah.
Knocks on HBO. It's just hard to keep track of it all. And it wasn't until this Rogan interview that it felt like anybody knew how much he. I feel like people know, but I don't. I'm not even aware of the sheer number of stuff he's been on in the last
Mhm.
5 years or so. It's fascinating how many specials he's been on.
He he talk he talks about it a little bit in the podcast, and there's an interesting insight into his mind where there's a and I've seen the clip where Oz is doing something for a football team, and he has the quarterback throw something to somebody and then throw something to somebody else, and the prediction includes, like, oh, he changed his mind at here, like, he hesitated, he was gonna throw here, and then he went and threw there, and then O's talking about how he planned that moment for 2 years, like, I believe that because he's thinking
Yeah.
so far ahead
Well,
on the
that
television
was my
stuff.
point is like, yes, to your point, he's
Mhm.
trying to get on Rogan multiple times, but that's
Yeah.
because that's all he's done for the
Yeah.
last 5 years is have regular
Yeah.
spots in all of these different shows that he's been on.
Mhm.
It's he's doing stuff nobody in our lifetime has done, right? Like what he's up to
Yeah.
right now. You can I don't know what his view counts are and all this stuff, but man, he's top of the
There
game.
there are there are there are magicians who have achieved this level of notoriety, like, locally, on local news, right? Like, I would argue Michael Kent's been on local news more I mean, like, as often, if not more, than you and I are on this podcast. I mean, like, it seems like every time I turn on, like, a local thing, Michael Kent's on there, and there are people like that in different cities, that are just, like, they're constantly it's Magic Monday in Detroit, and Keith and Sarah Fields are gonna be doing something with the local weather lady, but Oz is doing it on a huge level on ESPN. I mean, he really took that model and turned it into something massive.
And I don't know. We should talk about the podcast, I guess, too. But it's like we actually
Mm.
haven't talked about O's very
Yeah,
much, and that's what I'm saying. Like he's been on all these TV shows and
yeah,
things, and we haven't even talked about
mhm,
it. He's really like
yeah,
he's basically coming up with methods and tricks and techniques that are like familiar to some of us, but when you really start to dig into it, he's got
mhm,
stuff now for like recorded things that he knows are going to be like on video, and then he also has this whole subset of tools for live television, which he's been on an
mhm,
obscene amount of times, from sports desk shows to big stuff with like the Pat McAfee
mhm.
podcast, which is just as big. Crazy stuff.
But you see that on full display
Mm.
in this episode because in this podcast because there's a
Yep.
master prediction that happens at the end, which I don't want to if you haven't heard it, I hate that this is about to come out of my mouth, but go watch the Joe Rogan podcast. Uh, and watch it from beginning to it's 2.5 hours. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
long
it's a
thing.
short one
And
for
they're
Rogan, but like maybe just 1x,
yeah,
2x speed at 1.5 or something.
yeah. But there's a master prediction that is really expertly set up. And I think, what you to speaking exactly what you're saying is it really draws on he knows that this is a pre-recorded segment, but it's also happening live to the Joe Rogan listeners. And so there's this interesting thing that he's doing to use both of those toolboxes so that in real time it's amazing for the people in that room, but it also is going to be something that you can watch over and over and over again, and it is YouTube proof.
think Oz wants everything to be bulletproof, but he's also, I don't think, I mean, I guess he's proven there's definitely, clips of things that haven't gone perfectly for him. That's for sure. So, and when you think about getting to that level, you'd almost have to go through all that stuff to figure out how to make things bulletproof on the Joe Rogan podcast, right? Because it's just, there's no other way to get there. He's the only person that's climbed this mountain at this point.
You know what I'm shocked I haven't seen people talk about in the magic space with this? That is arguably some of the biggest news out of that podcast is that Oz is writing a book that details some of his methods. I mean, it sounds like it's a book that is sort of for the general population.
It's going to be
like
New York Times bestseller. I predict that, right? There you go.
But I would imagine that there's going to be some Oz Pearlman mentalism techniques in there that other mentalists are going to be like, you got to go into Borders and buy every copy. So
I don't know
no
about that. I bet it's going
to
be, well, who knows? But maybe there are some techniques in there. But I think it's probably going to be like things that people can apply to like business and other things like that. How about the first trick on the bank code? Yeah, the PIN code.
The PIN code?
So basically, the trick is essentially Oz guesses Joe's ATM PIN code.
Yeah. I don't want to be a downer because it's a really incredible performance piece. But I'm also going like, I learned how to get PIN codes from Oz 15 years ago, right? Like if there's anything I know that Oz can do, it's get Joe Rogan's PIN code.
Yeah. I don't know. Joe's just so, like I said, like the worst. Like when he's like, when he says 2020, he's like, yeah, no, there's a reason he said 2020. It's like, no, there isn't. Like he's a do it again, and he's a do it again type of guy, right? Like, so if his, if his PIN code came up at any other point in the day, I feel like he's calling him out in the moment, right? I just feels that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be wrong, but
look at the rest of the episode and how well Oz sets up. So the Chat GPT deck of cards
sure, yeah.
from Rogan's guests, right? So look at that as, he gets Joe to call a guy and that guy thinks of somebody and then Oz says who it is, or says who that person is thinking of. And then an hour and a half later, Oz reveals that he knows the person that Joe was texting. And Joe was cutting him into Oz was cutting Joe into little pieces before Joe
the
even
PIN code's just like the first thing. And it's just I mean, there's only a couple of ways to get that PIN code, right? ATM. And this is an ATM PIN code. It's not like his phone PIN code, right? Not that there's a huge difference, but trick-wise, it kind of is. So yeah, it's a. I don't have many guess. Good guess. I'm stumped on that. The rest of the stuff, I think, I mean, it's just so well done. But if you are a practicing magician mentalist, I think you'll enjoy watching it because it's really smart.
Yes.
That's about as much as I'll say about the methods.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that we could debate methods back and forth all day and probably will at some point.
I don't have a method for the PIN code, is what I'm saying.
I have two theories on the PIN code. But I also think that, because I think it's a common method, but I think he's using an uncommon source. And that's all I'll say.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else is? I mean,
But
crazy. I mean, the running stuff is not. It's the fact that he. I mean, I talk to O's every now and then, and sometimes,
mhm. You guys are
yeah,
sharing
we talk a lot
run
about
records
running.
with each other.
It blows my mind that like he casually runs a marathon before the Joe Rogan podcast to clear his mind, and that's fact. It's not even messing around. Like
Yeah,
that is true. No, I
he
don't know
just
how he
does
does
it.
it. 'Cause it's not even that. Like he'll like run a marathon before a corporate event. So get on the shower, get on stage, go do that, then jump in a plane, wake up in New York early to go break a 24-hour running record, in Central Park. It's just I don't understand where he has the time and energy. He's got 5 kids, I think, at this point, and like it's just
Yeah, which that was news to me. I knew he had 3. I didn't know he had
yeah, he's
5.
just he's crushing it out there. You can only tip your hat at
Yeah.
this point. And where does he go from here? Because it feels like I was trying to say before, we all knew he was doing stuff,
Mhm.
but this Rogan thing has really pushed him over the top. I feel like everybody saw it.
Yeah.
Like people that
Yeah.
wouldn't talk to me about mentalism are talking to me about mentalism now.
Mhm. Oh, I've got friends who are like me who do not like the Joe Rogan podcast and who have watched this thing and said, "If you've gotta watch it, you've gotta watch it. Oz does crazy stuff,"
Yeah.
because they knew the Penguin
I think he
connection.
just sells the book
Uh,
and then keeps
it
raising his rates
yeah.
on his corporate talks, and that's it. I don't really see him having
Yeah.
like a theater show or something like that. I think he's just gonna ride this wave out. And, um,
I I have to say that the one of the most impressive things in it is how well Oz can hang with a lot of these sports references, and, like, you don't have to be a sports guy to appreciate sports or to go for it. I remember talking to Farrell Dillon on the podcast a while ago, and Farrell kinda got into the Seattle Seahawks football because he knew that a lot of people he was hanging out with professionally, like, liked football, and he became a fan. But the other thing that Oz does really well is when Rogan starts going in on some of the pseudoscience, the psychic stuff, and he's like, "Come on, you've never experienced anything?" Like, or, there's, what about ghosts or aliens or stuff like that? Oz does a really good job of diffusing that without just, like without sounding like I would,
yeah.
like a
And when
jerk. Uh, it's very impressive to watch Oz navigate some of the more sticky parts
Yeah,
of
because he
mentalism and
when you think
ethics.
about the structure of the podcast too, he opens with that pin code and really stuns Joe,
Mhm,
right? Like it's really left
mhm.
like pretty awkward. It's hard magic to watch or mentalism to watch because Joe's so
Yeah,
rough at
yeah,
it. But the fact that he like landed that blow early, I guess let Joe's guard down a little bit on the rest of it. He kind of like, is egging him on here and there. But when he gets into the how are you doing these things, O's just continues to nail his points of, like body language,
mhm,
reading people, all that stuff.
mhm,
Where I think at first somebody like Joe would just deflect all that BS as he would think of it, but then actually started to listen to him
mhm.
at some point, like almost like,
Yeah,
okay, I give up. What are you trying to tell me this is? Because I have no other explanation at this point, right? Um, and I think, yeah, he won that
yeah,
battle on the because that's the battle on the Logan podcast is if you're coming on there
yeah,
and trying to tell him that what you're doing is something that you can do,
mhm,
he ain't buying it
mhm.
unless you can prove it.
Well, to me, the part that was the most incredible was Joe sort of hears what Oz is saying. I'm reading body language. I've just spent a lifetime reading people, and I make guesses, and most of the time they're right. And Joe buys into it, and so then Joe sort of takes it in this direction of, "Well, man, like we should just hire mentalists to be detectives and cops and interrogators and stuff." And the way Oz diffuses that. Whereas some people be like, oh yeah, no, like let's definitely get magicians to be in law enforcement. Whereas he goes, look, I'm a director, I'm aiming the camera. You can't do that in this. And it's not just that he deflects and sort of shuts down this kooky idea from Joe. He does it in a way that is the language is accessible because of Joe's background in entertainment. And then Joe sort of internalizes that and goes, oh no, you're right. This would
Yeah.
actually be the worst idea in the world. And I just don't think that
No,
there's
nobody's had
anyone
that
else who could have
nobody's had that
done that
conversation more than
effectively.
him. Right? Every time he shows up on TV, all the producers, all the athletes, all the people backstage, I have no
Mhm.
idea. I've not been on any of these sheets and seen what happens, but
Uh-huh.
you know what it's like talking to people about magic. It's the same stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody's had this conversation more than he has, and it's all basically added up
Uh-huh.
to a great showing on the biggest podcast in the world.
Mhm. Yeah. Definitely go check it out. Go listen to it. It's well worth, if you're a Penguin fan, this is it
A
for
little
you. If
sad
you're a
there's
Joe Rogan
no
fan, you're
Penguin
going to finally
Magic
see some
name
great
drop,
magic.
you
Like,
know? It was little,
yeah. However, if you go into the Joe Rogan subreddit, which I was scrolling, there is a ton of love for Penguin
yeah.
Magic in the Joe Rogan subreddit. They're like, "Oh,
They'll,
I used to buy tricks from Oz. He was
yeah, I guess
he was so good doing this stuff."
lastly
And a little bit I get it.
yeah.
A little bit I get it.
On the comments in general, like on YouTube, and I think I looked at them on Reddit. Obviously there's people
Mhm.
trying to bust methods and all that stuff in the comments. But I would almost
Yeah.
say they're almost more overwhelmingly talking about how they believe what he's saying is possible. People breaking
Mhm.
down like the moments in which he's like laying traps for Joe. And
Mhm.
I mean, that is not easy to do, right? Like that is
No.
not easy at all. And this is under the biggest microscope, right? Now, I don't know. I don't know the percentages of like what I'm trying to say, but I would guess it's almost more. The majority is probably more in the bucket you want it to be, as opposed to the guess the trick bucket. Um, so I thought that
Yeah.
was kind of interesting.
Yeah. It was fantastic. Go check it out. Nick, I think it's your turn to go watch the Justin Willman
I will
special, and we can
definitely.
break that down
I'm
next
looking
time.
forward to watching that one. Um,
Yeah. It's I can't wait to talk about you with it because it is the magic special I've wanted to see on TV for a long time. Not just because it's Justin Willman and I like what he's doing. It's like it portrays magic in like the
yeah.
coolest light. So you're gonna
Sweet.
you're
Yeah,
gonna
I'll
dig
get
it.
that done.
So all right, Nick, I'm going to turn it over to Past Me and Harrison Lampert talking about another new venue opening in Chicago, the Cosmic Underground Theater, to hold people over for a little bit or feed a new area of Chicago. It seems like there's
Yeah,
different
but
theaters
watching what
popping
they're
up
doing
all
on
over
their socials
Chicago.
look like they're having a lot of fun over there. So I'm looking forward to going out there at some point if I can
Yeah,
ever get a moment.
awesome.
Later.
All right, Nick, I'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much to Nick for being on the show. On to the main event. Harrison Lampert is a magician, actor, and improviser based in Chicago. He and his partner, Kayla Drescher, have just had the grand opening of the newest magic theater in Chicago, the Cosmic Underground Theater. It features magic, improv, and a magic academy. I had Harrison on the show to discuss the latest magic venue to hit Chicago via Zoom, and now you get to join our conversation. Harrison Lampert, thanks so much for joining me here on the Penguin Magic Podcast. Let's start off by saying congratulations on opening a new theater.
Thank you so much. It was quite a process, and we're very excited that we finally got it open.
So for listeners of the podcast who are not familiar with you, you were sort of a staple around the Magic Castle for quite some time. You were a teacher at the Magic Castle in their sort of like magic education thing. And then you moved to, you and Kayla Drescher moved to Chicago, and you were staples at the Chicago Magic Lounge, and now you're branching out and opening your own theater.
Correct. Yes.
Tell our listeners everything they need to. It's called the Cosmic Underground Theater. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct. It's the Cosmic Underground Theater. So we're in Logan Square, which is a little bit on like it's kind of west of like downtown area, but it's such a wonderful area. It's very neighborhoody, which is something we really like. There's really not much in the way of live entertainment in that area. There are a couple of places, but they do more like stand-up comedy and things like that. But there's really nothing to access magic in that area, which is really exciting. And also, there's not a lot of improv in that area as well. There's some improv, but not a lot. And so we're really excited to have found that spot. And so the theater focuses on kind of three different tiers, which we're really excited about. So we have our shows, which are Thursday through Saturday. The Thursday night show is my improv comedy company, The Mechanicals. And so we are kind of combining. So my background in that is I was with Groundlings for a really long time in LA. I was in their Sunday company. And, uh, and so combining the West Coast with the Midwest style of improv and things like that is kind of what we do with the Mechanicals. So I'm trying to, the idea is to bring the best of both worlds in
It-
that.
because this is a magic podcast,
Yeah.
and you and I both have a background in comedy, I think it should be noted to our podcast listeners. The Groundlings in Los Angeles is a very prestigious group of people. A lot of your favorite comedy actors on Saturday Night Live and The Daily Show, and just like staples in both American and Canadian comedy, like came up through the Groundlings.
Yeah. It's and it's been around for a while, and they've really kind of it's a if you're ever in LA and get to see a show there, it's
Mhm.
pretty amazing
Yeah.
what they do. And so that's our Thursday night show, and then Friday is Kayla Drescher's full mentalism mind reading comedy show. And then Saturday night is both Kayla and myself come together and do magic. So those are the shows. And then we also have the Magic Institute, which is our adult magic program. It's a 5-level main program, which is kind of, starting at the fundamental levels of magic. And then by the end, you learn how to build your own 10-minute set,
Wow.
which is really cool. There are showcases as it goes, so you get a chance to perform for audiences and just start to really learn not only the fundamentals of magic, but the fundamentals of performing magic. And so you learn more about who you are, how to approach your own voice in magic, and how you can make any trick you perform specifically unique to you, which can be very tough to do. And so we have that, and we just started doing after level 5 what we're calling graduate level programming. So now you're starting to learn more advanced techniques, advanced performing stuff. We just did a whole workshop on strolling magic and impromptu magic, and you're learning what are the ins and outs of strolling, and then they did like we created a whole strolling scenario in the theater,
Wow.
so that they could experience in a more controlled environment what it's like to do that. So that's the school that we're focusing on. We also have an open mic night for both students and for that's open to any magician who wants to try out new material.
Mhm.
The first one we did, we had some professionals come and just work on some stuff, and it's just nice to have because there's really not too many magic open mic nights specifically focused for magicians to come and try material. And that's what we bill it as. And um, all the profits we make from that night go towards scholarships for the Institute. And so we're really trying to be kind of on that end, an incubator for people who are really interested in learning the foundations, and whatever they want to do with it is up to them, but at least they have a supportive place to try and be creative.
That's super exciting. It's and I want to touch a little bit more on the Institute real quick, because I know that one thing that you and Kayla have been very passionate about is making gender neutral tutorials. So you've
Mhm.
got, when you're learning effects in this Institute, you're learning effects that are uh like they don't require pockets, which doesn't seem like a huge thing, but for so many women, and even like increasingly some of like the clothes that I'm buying, they just like don't
Mhm.
have pockets in the like usual places.
Right. Yeah, and it's really about just breaking it down to what is the concept of this? Like,
Mhm.
what's the concept of a holdout, and how do we use that? And if you want to use a pocket, you can. If you want to use a bag, you can. It's whatever, that it really is, because the concept is the same.
Mhm.
And so, as long as you're understanding that foundation of, okay, how do you use a vessel to ditch or steal?
Yeah.
It can be whatever you want it to be, and that's something that um, we really try to focus on, because magic is universal, and it can be universal, and anyone can do it, and that wants to. And it's just about, one of the things that we try to also inform our students on is, like, how do you learn magic from the materials that are out there? Because a lot of the materials they've been written a long time ago, and they haven't been updated or rewritten. And so if you go through a really old book, you might see some things where you're like, uh, I don't know about this. And
Yeah.
and so one of the things we want to make sure is that, they know that that's around, so that way they are prepared for seeing it and know, okay, I get that that was the thing that happened, and it's not a surprise to me, and I know that there are people that are working to move things forward. And so, I think that we think that that's helpful.
I couldn't agree with you more. My day job, day to day, is teaching magic to strangers over the internet, and so often I'm diving into my library and these old books to look for resources and materials, and I've got 20 years in magic
Mhm.
and a bunch of trophies and
Yeah.
experience, and sometimes I'm looking at these books and I'm like, "I what?"
Yeah.
So
One of the
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say one of the things in that too is we're trying to also update the names of certain things.
Mhm,
Um, and now we give, like, the context of what it was named,
mhm.
so that way, because it hasn't been updated in a lot of publications, but at least now we're going, "Okay, we see that this is either this is insensitive, or this is not, this should be updated," but we're giving the knowledge to them to know what they're looking for as well. So, it's
I
helpful.
I have been trying to do that in some of the tutorials that I think one of the most iconic ones is what we often refer to as the Hindu force or the Hindu shuffle, and, there's a growing movement that I believe started with you and Kayla and the Shazam podcast to some extent,
Mhm.
was to call it the lateral shuffle or the lateral force,
Yeah.
which I I've started in my writings referring to it, and as I talk to other young magicians, it actually makes more sense because if you don't like you it's not necessarily, like, offensive, as much as it is, like, outdated and referring to a very specific way that people in Southeast Asia shuffle. But
Yeah.
when you talk to an Eastern ear or a
Mhm.
Western ear, hearing lateral shuffle, like, it just clicks, like, what it
Mhm.
actually is
Right.
much better. And sometimes it's even just updating that to make it
Yeah.
easier for people to understand is so good.
And it's been kind of referred to that too. I remember, like, a very old Leonard Green video of one of his false shuffles that used that, and he's like, "Yeah, we're basically it's like a ladder." And
Yeah,
it's like, "Oh, okay, great. Yeah,
yeah.
so so it works out."
So what Chicago's kind of a hotbed of theaters right now
Mhm.
because there's Chicago Magic Lounge, Rhapsody, the
Mhm.
Hand in the Eye was just announced, Cosmic Underground Theater is just announced, but you've also got like Watkins has got his own
Yep.
theater,
Yep, Magic
uh,
Parlor.
Magic Parlor. There is so much magic happening in
Mhm.
Chicago these days. And the other thing is, it doesn't feel like they all overlap. They're in their own neighborhoods. It's
Mhm.
when you hear Chicago, unless you live there, it's kinda hard to understand that, "Oh, these aren't overlapping." They're
Yeah.
serving different areas of the city because Chicago is massive.
Chicago's big, and it's only helpful to have all these places, because, you go to one place and you go, "Oh, man, this is so wonderful. I wanna see more." And it's like, "Oh, I can go here, I can go here, I can go here, I can go here." So, I think having, a growth in magic accessibility is only beneficial, because then it just helps you get more people interested in seeing more. And they're all different. They're all so different. And so, like, you come to our place, you're with us. We don't have anyone else. We're welcoming you in. It's very neighborhoody. It's a smaller venue. Um, and so, which is different than if you go to like the Rhapsody, which is this big, gorgeous theater, and you're seeing, who's coming into town, and you have just different access to such different showcases of magic, which is cool.
What was the impetus for you and Kayla to open your own theater? And what were you most surprised about as you were putting it all together?
So it kind of started out of um trying to think what the best uh um so it's something that, like, I know Kayla, for example, has always wanted a space for her show to that
I do know that Kayla was sort of mentored by Mind Tripping and
yes,
help me out with their name.
Christian Catalina, yeah.
Christian and Catalina, who have their own space in Indianapolis. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that some of that was influential on her having her mentors with their own
Mhm.
space and wanting to put together her own space.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was something that Kayla's always wanted to do with her work. For me, as well, like, I've always been leaning. I've done magic for a long time. I love magic. I will always be doing magic in one way or another. I've always leaned more on the improv comedy side of things. Performing the Groundlings and doing all that stuff. And so there are always different, like, you know, certain issues when you work on the back end of things, like whether it be, you know, uh, like the bureaucracy, the politicalness of
Mhm.
certain things, and, like, Groundlings, Second City, UCB, they all have that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember years ago sitting going, I wonder what it would be if I kind of made my own company, what that would be like. And it's always kind of been in my mind a little bit. And then eventually, like, we were here in Chicago, we were doing the school, we kind of created our own version of the school with the Chicago Magic Lounge. And it just kind of got to a point where you're like, I think it's time that we build our own thing with this, like, with the school, with our shows. Um, because we wanted to, the school is at a point where we're like, our hands were a little tied in the schedule and what we wanted to do. And so we wanted to be able to expand
Mhm.
with that. We had a couple of students who were like, we think you should look into this sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and so the timing just worked out where we were like, yeah, I think this is the right time for us
That's great.
to have our own space. And it's something that we've always kind of wanted to do, just because we have performed in a lot of different places. We've done a lot of different things, and we've always wanted to have more creative control over the work that we do. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a space that's yours, that you can control, what goes on in there. Um, and so that's kind of where it started. What was the inspiration for it? And thankfully, we've had a lot of help, and we've learned a lot from a lot of different people who have gone through it. Christian and Catalina have been, they have been so incredibly helpful, and we've learned so much from them. We continue to learn a lot from them, as well as a lot of other people who have, you know, we have not done it alone. It was certainly a team effort to, get this thing going. And so I would say, if anyone's ever looking to do something like this, uh, you know, try and listen to the people around you who know a lot more than you do, because they've gone through a lot. And so it was really helpful to have people with a lot of knowledge who thankfully were willing to give us advice.
What was one of the biggest surprises in putting this together?
Uh, Probably the municipality,
Oh, yeah.
the permitting process. So I will spare you the long story, but the short story is that we were going for a very specific permit called a Performing Arts Venue Permit, which is for theaters. And that's what we were doing. We're doing, magic, comedy. We wanted to maybe have the option to do a play here and there, or like, sketch comedy, things like that. And where we are, I've done a lot of reading of the Chicago Municipal Code, by the way. So it's a great read. If you're ever looking for some new reading material, the Chicago Municipal Code is it's dense.
I'm deeply looking forward to the Harrison Lampert one-man show inspired by the Chicago Municipal Code.
Yes, and it's coming. So get ready. Maybe for Halloween. Because it is
spooky paperwork.
Yes, exactly. Paperwork and permits, inspections. So we were going for this permit because we were next to, like, not to get too much into zoning, but we were in a B1, B3 zone, which we're allowed to do a theater in. And next to us is a residence zone. And if you're in a residence zone, you can't be within 125 feet of a residence zone with what's called a PPA, or a public place of amusement permit. That's the big permit for entertainment venues. Any entertainment venue or any venue that is an amusement has to have this. But if you're a smaller venue, you can get a PAV, performing arts venue, and you don't need to get the variance. Why? I don't know, but you don't, for doing the same thing. So we were like, okay, great, let's do this. Well, according to the city of Chicago, magic is not theater.
What?
Mm-hmm.
That is, I was not expecting, when I asked what the biggest surprise is, I was not expecting to find out that a city declared magic not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically their logic was, and we have this in an email, was, because when you look at what they classify as live theater and stuff, they have a small list. And the list says live theater or live theatrical events include things that would be normally considered the fine arts, such as is not excluding, it's just, these are some examples, such as theater, comedy, and so dance, things like that. Now, those are very broad terms, right? Because comedy, what does that mean? Right?
My magic act is pretty funny, but the fact that there's miracles in it suddenly makes it not a theatrical art form?
I guess so. But their logic was that because the word magic was not listed there, it's not a form of theater. Now, there's a few issues with that, because if you look at their definition of the fine arts, that's not the performing arts. Fine arts are something very different. Fine arts are usually painting, ceramics, things like that. So they're off on that front too. But they said that because the word magic wasn't there, we can't get this performing arts venue permit. We have to get the big place of public amusement permit, which was just very funny to learn how that worked. Because also, I guess anyone with a PAV permit who's doing a play is in violation, because the word play is not listed there either.
That's wild.
Yeah. So that was one of the big surprises that we were like, okay, that's bizarre. Yeah. It's a lot of times, I think, just when you start working with different municipalities and things like that, when it comes to artistic ventures, they're not very cookie cutter. This is this and this is that. It's a little more not as well defined in a sense, because art can be subjective in different ways, and probably they haven't actually sat down and been okay, we have to, what is art and what is theater? And I didn't want to have the philosophical discussion with the city of Chicago on what theater is. So
I guess the question is, were you able to get the performing arts venue permit?
We were not. No, we had to go for the bigger permit. And
oh, wow.
And I'm glad we did it up front. We wanted to get it because then, you could do private events and you could do, different things like that. The PAV was a little more limiting in the scope of what you were permitted to do. And so we did want to go for it. We just wanted to try and open earlier.
Yeah.
And it just, it just didn't happen. What I did learn, so the whole process took about a year to get off the ground, to get open. And what I did learn, we have some wonderful neighbors. We're next to a place called Monster Ramen. If you like ramen in Chicago, fantastic ramen. But there's some bars, restaurants around us that are really wonderful and owned by really great people. And I have never met any business owner in Chicago that when they talk about starting their business went, yeah, it was pretty smooth for me.
Well, I'm thrilled that you were able to get it. And
Us
it's a
too.
shame it didn't open earlier. But if I'm not mistaken, you just had your grand opening as of this recording.
Yes.
How did that go?
It was so much fun. We had a really lovely turnout. We had the Chamber of Commerce come. The alderman came for the ribbon cutting. We did a cut and restored ribbon.
That if you restore the ribbon, you can't let him in the door, Harrison.
We cut it again. We used the wrong scissors, so we had to get the big scissors. And so it was really cool to get to meet, get to know them. We had a lot of our students come, which was awesome because part of this place is, we're just really thankful that they want to work with us because we want to work with them, and so their support means a lot. Our families were in town, so it was just a really lovely day. We built some optical illusions in the space so you could take some cool pictures, and then we had the evening show, which was really fun. So it was nice to do that. So it was good.
So you're moving into your second week now.
Officially after the grand opening. Yeah, we had a bit of a soft opening before, just to kind of get the flow of things and get the layout on, like, okay, how do we see people? How do we do all this, all the business stuff? And, but then now we are officially, like, the opening has been grand, and, we are now officially open. So yes. But it's been fun. We're probably, we got the shows running, and we're about to start a new round of classes. So usually the classes run in increments of 6 weeks. And then we take like a couple weeks off just because schedules and things like that. But we're looking to continue to build that as it goes.
It must be challenging to market both an improv comedy theater and a magic theater at the same time. How are you balancing this identity with your growing, patrons?
Yeah, it is right now it's still, since we're still very early on, we are working on figuring out what that balance is. One of the things, because each show needs to be marketed differently, because it is those 3 shows are very independent. We were starting with just like letting them know we're here. But we just hired a marketing person who's awesome, and we're working on, planting a lot of the seeds on organic marketing growth, and still learning a lot of that process. But I think the improv show, actually, we found is probably one of the harder ones to market, because in Chicago there's this, like, compared to magic, like magic shows that you can go see, there is tons of improv, which is great. It's accessibility is always good. So that's been the one to be like, okay, how do we, without going into like, this style is different because of this, because people don't, need to know that. That's not like a thing that they're like, I think people are really seeking out, like, I want to see this style of improv or this style. They're not looking at that. It's just trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to share what we're bringing out. And I think that's just going to come with some time of figuring it out. And I think, the magic shows can help lead to that as people come and hopefully have a good time and are like, oh, I want to see what else they do here. So we're still working on, as we are in our earlier stages, figuring out what that balance is as we go. And that's and with marketing, it's always changing. So you're always looking at, like, okay, week to week, how are we putting this out there in different ways? And one of the things we're going to be doing, we're going to be releasing some clips here and there of different shows, just so people can see different things. And so that's something we're working on, and just building our online presence and things like that.
Will there be a future where you're bringing in other performers from outside, or are we focusing on you and Kayla and the mechanicals for now?
Right now, it's focusing on us and the mechanicals. That's not something that's off the table. It's just right now we're trying to establish the brand of this theater, which is, built for the work that we want to do and the work that we want to showcase. But we're not, we want, like, the open mic is an opportunity for anyone to come and try things out. I think that's something we'll look at as, a little further down the line.
Yeah.
It's not something that's off the table, but it's not something we're really thinking about right now.
I also recognize that I'm asking this question after you've been open for a couple of weeks.
We got that question before we opened, so
yeah.
it is, and it's not a bad question. It's good to know. I would say the difference with us, we're not really classifying ourselves as a magic venue. We're
Yeah.
a theater that showcases these shows.
Gotcha.
In a sense. And so, like the Rhapsody or the Lounge or the Castle, those are venues that bring in people week to week, and that's not, really what we're leaning more on the side of, like the Magic Parlor, that it's just, Dennis is just doing that, and may have some people sub in occasionally, or like there's a show called Trickery here, and it's just that person's show. And so that's right now where our focus is.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I can't wait to come visit it the next time I'm in Chicago and see you guys, because I am a fan of both of you and Kayla, and I think
thanks.
anyone who's listening to this should go check you guys out. Where can listeners find out more about the theater?
So if you go to our website, which is cosmicundergroundtheater.com, that's theater spelled THEATER, cosmicundergroundtheater.com. You can sign up for our mailing list if you want. We're also on Instagram, and our Instagram is Cosmic Underground Theater, and we post all the updates, with the classes, open mics, shows on Instagram, on our website, on our newsletter. So those are the best places. And you can also, if you ever, reach out to me on Instagram, Harrison Lampert, and have any questions, you can always do that too.
Fantastic. Harrison, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for this week, kids. Thanks so much to Harrison for being on the show, and thanks to you for listening. Just a heads up, the show is going to be a little different for a few weeks. I am headed out on a much-needed vacation with my family, and then immediately head to FISM in Italy. Don't worry, we won't be missing any episodes. I'm recording ahead so that you will hear some amazing interviews with Jason Latimer, David Correia, and many, many others. Nick and I have some breakdown episodes to do as well, but we may be a little behind on the up-to-the-minute magic news and releases. Don't worry, we'll cover those when I get back. As always, we're a weekly podcast, so be sure to like and subscribe, as well as share your favorite episodes on the social media platform that you've been finding 3D printed nonsense on. If you wanted to reach out to me about anything on this week's show, you'll have to battle me in a wizard's duel with this crazy rubber band shooting magic wand that I printed. It's super dumb, but I keep shooting tin cans off a fence post with it while shouting nonsense spells. Also, it's entirely rainbow, so there's no doubt that J.K. Rowling would hate it. But if making random plastic stuff to entertain you while you melt inside your home office from the crazy weather isn't your cup of tea, you can always hit me up on Instagram at Erik Tait. That's at ERIKTAIT. From me and everyone else here at the P3 Magic Studios, practice, perform.